So from your perspective, like how should small businesses be thinking about their supply chain differently now than they were, say, 5-10 years ago?
Yeah, I think the important part is you have to be flexible and adaptable. And of course, you have to have a certain amount of clairvoyance, not panic when you make decisions, but still make good decisions based on what's coming. So inventory building is a good example of that. If tariffs are coming, it's a good time for you to stock up on inventory. And we've seen a lot of Canadian businesses do just that. Some of them with more success than others. But it's understanding, what I need, what I consume, and where it comes from. It's really, really important because there are a lot of businesses that, I'll be honest, that I've spoken to that didn't even know that they would be tariffed from their imports. They didn't build up inventory, and all of a sudden they're facing a strong price increase from their customer, and they just don't know how to deal with that. Or the other way around is also true. Exporters who buy a particular good to then transform it and then export, you really need to understand where those things you're buying come from and what your risks of exposure to the current market is. And it's not only about knowing what it is now, but it's also about trying to anticipate what is going to happen. Obviously, that's a big challenge, but in that medium-term horizon, something we encourage a lot of businesses to do is plan as much as possible. Scenarios, for example. Not to say that you should build a bunch of scenarios and then pick one and align with that. But building scenarios gives you a really good understanding of what could happen. And often those extreme scenarios, the very good or the very bad, they'll never happen. But knowing what happens to my business should the very bad scenario develop is a really good way of understanding, okay, what are the limits of my playing field here? And how am I potentially exposed to that? And there's a way that you can leverage data and leverage analytics and programming in order to try to build models to say, okay, let me set my input costs and say they're going to go up by 20% by the end of the year, and my demand is going to shrink by 10%. What happens to my business? That sort of understanding means, okay, when costs go up by 10% and your demand goes down by 5%, you're like, okay, I know where it could go, but I'm going to be a little bit better than that, right? So it helps really orient yourself in the reality that you're living.
Awesome. And if you can give entrepreneurs just one piece of advice that they can use to kind of take away to help with their inventory planning and their, just their operations planning this year, what would it be?
I'd say, honestly, stay connected. Don't be afraid to ask for advice. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone. Call your banker. Call your consultants, the people who you work with. Call your partners. Call your competitors. Don't be afraid to get up and go and attend meetings, association events, things like that. Stay out there. Stay informed, because you'll be amazed to hear the stories of entrepreneurs across Canada. This is a tough situation. It's led to a lot of difficulty for some firms, but it's led to an amazing amount of opportunities for others as well. There are firms out there, businesses who have been able to capitalize from this market. And I'll give you just a quick, not a concrete example, but why that's the case is that the US is currently fielding tariffs from all over the world. They want to impose tariffs on, Japan, South Korea recently, but basically all countries of the world. This could actually put Canadian businesses in an advantageous position, because if they're buying things from those countries, which then becomes tariffed, and you're producing that good but free trade, under USMCA, you could go then and take market share.
Yeah.
Right. But you're not necessarily going to know that's the case unless you keep your ear to the ground and you understand your market, you understand your customer, and how you can then develop that. So I'd say stay connected and don't be afraid to use the resources that are available to you. So BDC, again, a great resource. EDC, Export Development Canada, also a Crown Corporation that we work a lot with. They do a really great job at helping those who are exposed to tariffs through exports navigate that, not only directly, but also indirectly. So if you're indirectly exposed to tariffs, you're not even an exporter, but your client is an exporter, EDC can also help you mitigate some of that. And the last one I'll say is there's a great, organism called the Trade Commissioner's Office. And this is a governmental organization that exists in various countries around the world, a lot of countries, more than 100. And they're basically staff that are in that country that help foreign businesses, so Canadian business. So they help them get in touch with suppliers, get in touch with clients, know about affairs or expos that are going on in their particular sector. Their job is fantastic, really, really good, and they're free. actually. So they really are in complement of Canadian business owners. So there's a lot of people who don't know about that. And I think it's definitely something worth leveraged, especially if you're involved, in exports, or if you're looking to diversify your markets. It's an absolutely invaluable resource.
Right. And that's like a Canadian organization that is
Exactly.
working abroad. And it's like a liaison.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. Great.
So we're almost reaching the end now. So to wrap it up, could you share some simple concepts or frameworks for business owners to help improve their daily operations?
I would talk really about this idea that your decision horizon is more contracted than it was before nowadays, with everything moving so quickly and announcements seemingly coming out of nowhere. So understanding, what you can control in your short-term horizon, which is again, your profits and your productivity, and then your cash flow and your costs and your leverage. How you can control all of that is very, very important in the short term. And then in the medium term, that's when you can kind of look at, the planning horizon. Okay, are my costs properly set? Should I be charging more for my product? What kind of risks am I exposed to there? And that's where the beauty of modeling and scenario work can really come and help you, because scenarios are really, really important to help you kind of understand what the possible outcomes are. So, if you build a bunch of scenarios and then you look at the extremes, the extreme good or extreme bad, it's not likely that it's going to happen, but it can let you know, what could happen to my business if my costs go up X amount and my revenues go down a certain amount. So, when you end up with a middle of the road sort of outcome, you're going to be well positioned to be able to understand where things could have gone. So that's kind of the medium term exercise. And then in the longer term, I'd say, look towards more structural things that you can do with your business. So reduce your costs, address wastes, increase productivity. Again, establish a task force for productivity. Choose some of your employees who are driven, motivated, who want to see productivity growth in your company, and see how you can do that over the longer term horizon.
Awesome.